everyone. Welcome to Just Say It, the podcast by communicators for communicators. On this show, we have in-depth conversations with journalists, messaging experts, designers, marketers, leaders, and managers, and unpack their wisdom and experience. Each episode is designed for strategic communicators looking to level up and advance their careers. I'm your host, Rochelle Bedell. Grace Ling has a bachelor's degree in bioengineering and computer science and a master's degree in computer science and engineering. Between 2017 and 2020, she methodically pivoted from working in chemistry research and virtual reality to product and UX/UI design and content creator. Grace has worked as a product designer and artist for Candyleaf Designs and is currently working as an experienced designer at Electronic Arts. And in the middle of doing all of that, Grace founded a company called Design Buddies, a community for designers to connect and support designers, especially those just entering the design field. Through Design Buddies, Grace provides workshops, mentorships, and sharing to help the community of designers thrive. Grace, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, of course. So Grace, I wanted to start first with just talking about this amazing educational journey that you went on. I know you started in bioengineering and then you went to computer science engineering and then eventually made your way over to UX/UI design. And in my mind, they're so different from each other. And I just love to hear how you made all those decisions and made your way over to UX/UI design.
Yeah, for sure. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, and growing up, I was a big fan of anime and video games and drawing. So I wasn't actually a fan of school. I thought school was, in my opinion, boring because it involved following a structured set of rules and it can't really be creative. So I spent a lot of time drawing in class and writing stories, designing characters. And then I thought I wanted to be like an anime artist growing up. But in high school, my mother started paying me to go to the gym with her. And that's how I discovered I was fast. So I got into running a lot, cross country and track, made it to nationals a couple of times, won some races. And that inspired my major of bioengineering in college because I wanted to learn how to biohack myself to run faster. I was pre-med and all of that. And I was also influenced by a lot of my peers, like growing up in the Bay Area, Cupertino, all the adults were like, you gotta be a doctor, engineer, lawyer. So I was like, oh, right, I'll be a doctor, engineer because I want to be quote unquote successful, however they defined it. But I was also interested in biohacking. And I started at Santa Clara University in 2015. And after 2 years of doing bioengineering, I felt like it wasn't a good fit for me because when I was in the field, I did internships in the lab doing research on gene therapy. I felt like it was repeating a lot of experiments over and over again and changing one small variable. And my favorite part of that was actually taking photos of the cells and overlaying them in Photoshop. And I was looking forward to going home every day. Like I just thought I was just doing it for my resume because society influenced me to think that I needed MD titles or like PhD titles. So that's why I was doing research. I was not doing it for myself, but what I thought society's definition of success was. And after 2 years of that, I decided to like pivot over to computer science because I loved games and I wanted to learn how to make my own. And that's how I got interested in coding. Like I was not interested in like computer science before, but because I want to make games, I was like, oh, gotta study that. Because I had a hard time like teaching myself coding online. So I was like, oh, might as well like take some fundamental classes. And so I picked that up in my undergrad and I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials. That experience of developing a VR game, virtual reality game by myself taught me that I'm not limited by my major. I can like pivot away from it. And so I graduated and I did a few internships in like game dev, software engineering. And then I realized that I didn't really like coding. I just like making stuff. And I really liked the design process. So I was actually an intern at Intuitive Surgical one summer and I was like virtual reality, robotic surgery, game developer intern. And throughout the internship, I got to design and game to train surgeons to do surgery end to end. My favorite part of that was doing the level design and also like interviewing surgeons, how they do surgery. I thought that was super interesting and seeing how I can translate that into the design. Most of the time was spent coding, so I didn't really like that, to be honest. So I decided to pivot again after I graduated in 2019 to do design. But at that time, when I graduated, I didn't feel really ready to adult yet, so I signed myself up for more school. I was kind of in between like, oh, do I want to like do software engineering? Do I want to do UI UX? So I thought of doing a PhD in human computer interaction actually, but I did a practice GRE and I got like the bottom 10 percentile. So I was like, oh no, I can't do apply for school. So I stayed at Santa Clara because it did not require GRE. Studied computer science and engineering because I thought I wanted to improve in coding. And halfway through my fall quarter, I like pivoted over to design. But because I felt like such a noob or like beginner in my field, I just stuck with it. I actually took 3 years to graduate from my master's. During that time, took a lot of classes, did a thesis, was a part-time student actually actually for most of the time there. And yeah, so I just kind of pivoted over to design, and I still don't really know what I want to do in my life. I know I like design, but I also like a lot of other things as well, like content creation, entrepreneurship, running, art. So yeah, right now these days I'm just kind of doing everything that I guess sparks joy.
I love this story so much because I totally relate to it. When I was getting my bachelor's degree, I had that same feeling of like just being trapped by what society wanted from me. And what I really wanted to study is photography. But my college made that a little bit difficult. You had to apply to it to even take any of the classes and be accepted into it. And I also felt this pressure that if I did photography or something in the creative field, that I was looked down upon. So I ended up with a major in math education. And I picked it because I enjoyed my math classes, but I also had this wide range of interests, and education kind of fulfilled that because it allowed me to have this balance between the technical math, but then also interacting with people and, looking at these other things and other theories of study. And I ended up hating it. I hated teaching so much. And then after a few years and, a little bit of time went by, I ended up opening my own photography business, just totally self-taught, bunch of tutorials, figuring it out on my own. It was really fulfilling. And it's frustrating to me that we go through life like with all these, I don't know, I guess just weighed down by other people's expectations on us. So I love listening to you and your journey, and that you're okay with the pivot and you're really comfortable in that and giving yourself space to do that. So tell me, what advice would you give someone looking to pivot? Because you've done it multiple times now. What advice would you give?
Advice I'll give to someone starting to pivot is it's never too late to start. I feel like a lot of times people feel blocked by seeing people who might be younger, have more experience in their field, but it's never too late to start. There's so many resources you can find online, communities you can join, mentors you can find in the field, events and resources you can seek online. So just do it. And I feel like for me, the thing stopping me was the fear of failure. But how I reframed that was everything I do, it's like I'm taking a risk. But if I fail, it's like, oh, it's data. I can use this learnings to keep improving from that. So I don't see it as a failure, but I see it as an experiment, life being iterative. So you're never gonna find it always, but it's the journey that I find fun. And that mindset helps me just keep taking risks, try new things, and leveling up in life.
I love this philosophy of being iterative. And we talked about it before in our previous conversation about how it's applicable to so many things. So it's applicable to these really big decisions like the life pivot, but it's also applicative to content creators and really, diving into something and not being afraid to start something, but just start it and try, because you can always adapt and change as you learn and grow and get more data, and you just get better. But if you get paralyzed by the fear and not start, then you end up just not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's exactly why I started content creation. I just love experimenting really fast and learning from that, and just outside my comfort zone to try something new.
I love that. And tell me, I know I've seen some of your postings on LinkedIn. What other kinds of content creation are you doing?
Yeah, right now I'm experimenting a lot with TikTok videos, so short form talking head videos, vlogs, day in the life as a UX designer, and games. They're really fun to film, and some art tutorials and art content. I also randomly made a food TikTok account, and I didn't advertise it anywhere. I'm just experimenting with the algorithm. It got a few hundred followers in a few weeks, so it's been so fun. And I'm also experimenting with a lot of long form content on YouTube, mainly vlogs, lifestyle travel vlogs, and UX design career tips, because one of my dreams is to become a travel vlogger and just travel the world and get paid for it, talk about it, and it's fun. And the other thing is I get a lot of questions on LinkedIn about design and career, so I just want to help answer them and scale myself as well. So that's my two motivations for doing content creation, because I used to be really shy on camera, but I'm doing it so I can become a better presenter, which helps me at work and in life as well. So yeah, I'm doing it to kind of grow, but also learn, getting opportunities at the same time. I also got to meet a lot of different content creators and have a lot of fun with that.
That's amazing. So let's take it back to UX UI design. You talked about how you like the creative process. Is there more that you want to say about what drew you to it? Why UX UI design? What was it about that? Because I know you also do illustration. You do other kinds of design. So why UX UI?
Yeah, I love UI UX design because it's I can do a lot of things all at once. It's really interdisciplinary, because I feel a common misconception is design is art, but I feel the main difference between design and art is human expression, how you want to express your thoughts, feelings. But design, you're solving a problem, but adding your own creative approach to it. But as a designer, I would say my job is problem solving, and it's like a fine balance between solving the user needs, aligned to technical constraints with engineering, and working with product to make sure it hits business goals, because without money, you can't pay designers to make the users' lives better. But you still make sure that engineers can build it too. It's like I get to work with a lot of like product managers, engineers, researchers, business partners, other designers, and I also like interviewing users as well. So I feel like something new to learn every day, a new challenge to solve, and it just makes like the constant learning is what makes me excited about it.
That's really interesting because it makes this blend of the things that you really enjoy. You know, what I heard in there was like the problem solving, the technical, but also the creative. And so it's both. Whereas, you know, perhaps if you were to just go with illustration, it would be a little less technical, a little less problem solving, a little less collaborative. But this hits that wide range of things that you really enjoy doing, which is really kind of a nice little sweet spot for you. Tell me, in your experience, what makes a good design? Like if you had to like summarize it, and I know probably every project is different, but what makes for a good design? And then do you have a favorite project that you've worked on?
It depends on what the goals are that you set. Examples of goals are like, did it generate more revenue? Did it solve the problem for the user? Did it help the user accomplish their task? Was it easy to use? So I would say it depends on the goal, but I feel like if it hits the goal that set in the beginning, it's successful. And I feel like one of my favorite projects, I feel like I've worked on a lot of great ones, is Design Buddies. It's like a random community that I randomly started out of the blue and just kept experimenting with it because I had nothing to lose. And because of that, I just went all out on experimenting with it, and I learned so much, made so many mistakes along the way, but I love all of it because it made me learn so many skills, especially like soft skills like management and leadership skills that carry over to my work at EA as well. And say with my work at EA, I'm learning like a lot of technical skills that I'm later applying to Design Buddies.
Did you design the website for Design Buddies? Is that what got it started? Is you built this website and invited people to join it, or what was that process like?
Why I started Design Buddies was when I was starting out in design in around 2020. I joined a lot of other design communities, but I felt intimidated by it. I felt like as a beginner, I couldn't really ask questions without feeling judged. To me, it seems like there's a lot of ego in there, and I don't have time for people's egos. So I just started a Discord server because all I want to do is just like vibe and chill and talk about design and make friends in a low ego environment where people can learn from each other. So that's the honest reason why I started Design Buddies. I made a Discord server and I just plugged it everywhere. I plugged it on my own socials. I plugged it in some Facebook groups, and that's how we got our first 1,000 members. And we realized that like a lot of people were reaching out to us to do like workshops. A lot of brands want to collaborate with us. So we started doing a lot of workshops, and we realized that people want to join Design Buddies because they want a job. But to get a job, you need to have skills, network. So we just kind of identified that user need, and also just unlocking more resources to people. Our mission is to help designers level up in their career by providing like events, design challenges, resources, mentorships, networking, jobs, and more.
And tell me, with where it's at now, is Design Buddies fulfilling your vision of its mission, or do you have further that you want to take it? Is there more that you want to do with this community?
Yeah, for Design Buddies, I went a lot of back and forth about it. One time I thought of going full time. I don't think I ever want to do full-time Design Buddies just because what draws me to keep doing Design Buddies is experimentation without constraints. I don't want my income to be reliant on it. Otherwise, I would have constraints. I guess like the long-term vision for Design Buddies is being a household name for design. So if anyone thinks about learning design, Design Buddies will come to mind. I just like love the ability to just like take a lot of risks and experiment, and I've learned so much by taking lots of risks and a lot of like partnering with companies as well. So not really any specific like tangible specific goal, but as long as we're doing something new all the time, that's where we hope to go. So focusing right now more on the journey, and not really sure, but it's like nice little compliment to my full-time job.
Yeah. And then tell me, when we spoke the other day, you mentioned one of the failures that you experienced when first starting Design Buddies. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you learned from that experience?
Yeah, so the failure I did was scaling too fast too soon. When I started Design Buddies, I didn't know that many people, so people volunteered to be moderators, and I had quite an experience with that. I've noticed that some moderators, they wanted to moderate just because they wanted to power trip or wanted to put Design Buddies on their resume. Their power tripping looked like gaslighting people in the chat for accidentally posting in the wrong channel, banning people because they said something they didn't like, and and these things could be politics in China, or like if they mention crypto, they automatically ban them because of their personal reasons. They also created a toxic environment within the team as well. For example, if somebody proposed an event to do Halloween, they would call them as not inclusive because the whole world doesn't celebrate Halloween, even though it's just something for fun. So a lot of like passive aggressiveness, I feel like, is like lack of like psychological safety. It was creating an environment where a lot of the teammates didn't feel open to speaking up. They would bring it up to me, but were afraid of bringing up to the whole group. I feel like the mistake I've made there was because I didn't know anyone, so I just took on anyone who wanted to help out. But I feel like I should have addressed it in the beginning. Any problems I saw in the beginning, I should have called it out instead of waiting for it to build up. But I really appreciate that experience because it taught me a lot about what I want to look for people, like characteristics I value on a team, but also dealing with conflict and how I should call it out right away. So I feel like that experience shaped me to be more assertive and just like making sure that I call things out early, not just for myself, but for because it impacts all the other teammates and the whole community as well. So yeah, I just really appreciate that whole experience, even though it got to a lot of drama and it caused like a lot of stress and burnout, honestly. But I feel like I came out of it in a really nice way with nice takeaways.
So with all that experience, when you're looking for leaders for your company now, what characteristics are you looking for? What does that look like?
Yeah, I look for people who are passionate about design as a whole, not really passionate about moderating, but passionate about the craft and also experience in the field. So people with experience, like for example, in partnerships, people with experience like doing brand partnerships, in mentorship, people experience in that. So looking for like the motivation in the craft and their experience too.
I want to jump back to a question about UX UI design. What is a commonly held belief you disagree with about UX UI design? I know we talked about this before and you had a really interesting take on this. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to answer that one.
I feel like this was a result of me being on LinkedIn too much back in 2020, but I feel like a lot of the people that I saw there, like they just emphasize too much on the user. They're like, users are everything. I live and breathe these UX principles. But UX design is a lot more than the users. Users are a huge part of it, but there's also the business side, the technical side, and the whole ecosystem. Without considering like making money or solving business goals, you won't have money to pay designers to make the lives of the users better. And designers also need to design things that engineers can actually build so the users can use it. And I feel like people are too like sometimes too narrow-minded in like solving for the users. The users are a huge part of it, but there's also like other disciplines as well that play a huge role in product development.
If I remember correctly, you had mentioned that oftentimes in our school projects that we get regarding UX UI design, it's very much focused on the users without looking at that company piece and what the company needs out of that design. How do you bridge that gap? So if you're a designer, you're just coming out of school, what kind of things can you do to have this broader mindset that also keeps the company in mind?
Yeah, I feel like this is really important because I feel like a lot of times, like people come from design school, a big piece they're missing is that experience in collaborating with like product and engineering. For me, I never actually studied design in school. I feel like it's like maybe a good thing because it helped me just like have a blank slate and just like create. So how I actually learned design without design experience was I attended a lot of like hackathons and designathons, a lot of volunteer projects, freelance work, building something of my own and learning from it. But I like encouraging people to attend like designathons and hackathons because those are like great events where you can meet other people, collaborate with the team, oftentimes collaborate with like engineering product to build a product together. In hackathons, there's also lots of like workshops, networking opportunities, recruiters there, recruiting. So I feel like it's a great resource. And a big misconception people have about hackathons is you had to stay up all night and grind. But after attending like 10, I would say like that's false. It's like you could do it, depends how you make of it, but I feel like it's just a great opportunity to level up your skills in a really short time and get excited about like so many resources along the way too.
Very cool. I had no idea with that at hackathons. That's absolutely what I thought. That you were up all night working the entire.
You could, but it doesn't have to be most of the case. Most people sleep. I sleep too. One time I did. After that, I stayed for like 36 hours straight. After that, it was like an in-person hackathon though. After that, I was like, oh, no more. I cannot do this.
No. One of the things I've heard you talk about is not letting your career define your identity. Can you tell us what this means to you and what it looks like in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times growing up in the Bay Area, when I meet people, they always ask me like what I do. And after I answer that, their whole perception of me like changes or like shifts. And that tells me that people like value career a lot with identity. And I used to be that way too, but it led me to burnout. There's like so much more to life. Like there's our hobbies, traveling, your friends and family. There's just like so much more to be excited about than your career. Like your career is a huge part of your life, but there's also like everything else. And instead of like asking people what they do, I like to ask people like what they like to do, because I feel like people are like so multidimensional. Like they just like career is like one thing they do, but not everything they do. So I feel like seeing someone as like a whole person is helping like get over that mindset of like career equals identity.
I love this idea of asking people what they like to do. I think it could be really beneficial, not only in networking events, but people that you work with, because absolutely it gives you this broader idea of who they are and what they do. And even having to articulate what you like to do helps you better understand your identity. So, Grace, tell me, what do you like to do?
I love like a lot of different things. I like to do everything all at once, and that includes like design, art, drawing, 3D art, illustration, running, content creation, traveling, talking about it, meeting new people, exploring. So, yeah, I like to do a lot of things all at once. What about you?
So I was thinking about this the other day after we had our conversation, and I really like to go hiking. I love the outdoors. I love nature, and I also love travel. One of my favorite places is Europe, and I feel like it brings me almost back to my roots, which is weird because I'm born and raised in the United States. But just getting out and seeing other cultures and seeing how they live and their history and all of that, it really inspires me and it ignites something in me. So my list isn't quite as long as yours, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I love traveling. I feel like I encourage everyone to travel more because it really opens your mind, and learning how people live in different perspectives and learning perspectives that might be different than yours is what helped me a lot as well. And I learned that a lot through traveling too.
Yeah, absolutely. I could talk traveling forever. But let's move on to our Just Say It questions. And these are questions that we ask in every interview just to get your unique perspective on these two ones. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self when you were just getting started in your career, what would it be?
I would say be more open-minded and learn about opinions that might be different than yours, like seeking to understand other people, different perspectives, instead of like seeking to like criticize them. And just have like a learning mindset and just being curious overall about like, why people think certain things. Because I feel like, especially online these days, it might be like the algorithms feeding us, but people seem very polarizing. And I feel like that is like one factor of it. But I feel like as especially as a designer and like a human being, it helped me a lot to just be more empathetic, more understanding, instead of like seeking to learn about something just to like put someone down or make me seem right, and just having a low ego and just seeking curiosity of like why people think differently. And it's like not right or wrong, but just like, oh, that's cool, like I wonder, I want to learn more about that.
Yeah, I think this idea of curiosity is so crucial to where we're at as a society right now, and crucial to connecting with people and understanding people and bridging this gap. Because I think in the end, we're all human and we're more alike than we are different. And if we can be curious and, as you said, empathetic, it really helps us to bridge that gap and be able to see each other as full human beings. Tell me, what is one habit that you do daily that you would recommend to our listeners?
Do something that makes you happy every day. It could be just for fun. It could be like watching a Netflix show that you like, could be going on a run, could be going out swimming, drawing, just something that just for fun, like something you're not trying to like monetize or like for your career, but just for fun, like every single day. So you enjoyed life, because I feel like I was sold in the idea of like what they call hustle culture for a very long time, where I spent my life as a student living and breathing my studies. I spent my first few years of my career living and breathing design, and I was the most unhappy. In 2022, I started just doing stuff for fun, and I like my happiness and my burnout all went away. So I highly recommend all of that.
So, Grace, tell me with that, because I feel like there's a lot of pressure to really have the hustle culture, and we're kind of told that we have to hustle in order to keep the job or to get the promotion or to get the job that we really want. So, how do you balance that? How do you balance that idea of, yeah, we have to work hard in our jobs, but we also need this other piece over here just so that we can live life and feel that fulfillment and spark that makes life really fulfilling?
I feel like the notion of the kind of like the mantra I like to live my life by is like work smart, not hard, finding easier ways to do stuff and letting go of perfectionism. Because the reason why I felt like I had to like work so hard was like, oh, I had to be perfect. I had to get perfect grades. I had to get perfect performance reviews at work. And that really held me back for being creative and being myself. And so letting go of like perfectionism because I don't think it exists anywhere and seeing it as like a journey is what helped me a lot. It also helps me a lot to have like a really nice team at work who really values like mental health, no meeting Fridays, like not anti hustle culture, but like discouraging like the grind. So I'm also really thankful to my team at EA for instilling these like non-toxic hustle culture ideals in me early on in my career too.
I love that. Grace, you are so full of energy and life and creativity. It's just a pleasure getting to know you and talking with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. Grace, where can our listeners find you and connect with you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was really fun. And yeah, anyone can connect with me on my social medias. I create a lot of like design and career content on like LinkedIn, Instagram. I have like a running/life and an art one, Twitter. Been creating a lot of like fun videos on like TikTok and YouTube. And you can also join Design Buddies. And I'll provide the link as well on Discord.
Perfect. And for our listeners, we'll have all those links in our show notes. So be sure to connect with Grace and see everything that she's up to and join our design buddies. I think, Grace, you said there's 50,000 people in that community now.
Yep, almost 50,000.
It's amazing. All right, that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Grace. Have a good day.
Thank you. You as well.
We have additional resources and links in our show notes at justsayitcommunications.com. Transcripts are up on the website and the video is up on YouTube. My team is Andrea Casas Topete, Zara Momini, and Shinga Yoshimine. And my name is Rochelle Vidal. If you enjoyed this show, please like and share it. And don't forget to apply what you learn on the show. We hope you'll join us again soon for another conversation.